Hello friends, it is Erin or Everyday Erin, and I am back with the planning video, project planning video. You're gonna have to bear with me. As I mentioned in my previous video, we have a house guest, and typically I would record this in a room without a dog running around like a crazy person who just got a new toy. But today I'm recording in a room with a dog who just got a new toy and is running around like a lunatic. So it is what it is, right? I asked in my last TGIF if you wanted to see how my brain kind of works in project planning, and you said yes, so here I am. We're gonna go with it from here. Stay tuned for bloopers at the end of this video. Anyway, how do I get as much done as I do? With squeaking dog toys and chaos. The number one thing I do is I try to plan. I try to have a plan, and I try to set myself up to succeed craftily. Is that a word? I don't know. So before I made this video, I sat down and made some notes, did a brain dump of all the things that I kind of do without thinking about it before I plan my projects for the next however long. And I came up, I typed up this document, which I'm going to share with you via Google Docs about what I do. And I'm going to go over it with you and how I decided for the next little bit what I'm going to work on. I don't have 24-hour access to my craft room right now, so I needed to gather as much as I could that I knew I was going to need. So planning at this point was very important. Similar to when I craft in the RV. I need to know what I'm going to need or I won't be able to get my things done. So the first thing I did, which is one on this list, is I looked at my goals for the year. And I have my goals here somewhere. They're right in front of me, of course. So I pulled out my goals and I looked at what I could potentially get done in this time. I have 3 questions here. What do I have on my goal list? Is there anything I'm inspired to work on right now? And is there anything that I am close to finishing that would give me, that, oh, I finished it, boost of energy? And I looked through my pile, and what do I have to work on is always going to be my scrappy happy blanket. So I pulled that out. And there's nothing I was truly inspired to work on from my goals list. So something that is close to being finished is my camper cross stitch kit, which I don't think I brought it out here because it's on my stand. So I wrote that down. Next was to look at my stash. Now, if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that my stash is quite extensive. I have enough yarn, cross stitch, fabric, paper to keep me occupied for the rest of my life and probably someone else's. So I should be able to look at what I have and come up with a plan. When I look in my stash, I ask myself a couple questions. What do I have? Is there anything that is like calling my name or speaking to me? And is there something that I just want to use? And I did have a want to use this time. Not above bribery. So, 2 things in my stash that I was really drawn to working with this month were both these King Cole Riot double knittings. Anyway, this one is color Dude, and this one is color Deep. Now, this one's seen better days because it's been in the stash for a while, but so I pulled these out. Beyond that, that's the inspiration I got from my stash, and that's perfectly fine. My criteria number 3 is, what do I need to work on? What do I need to make? And needs could be anything from gifts, if you are a crafter for hire, could be orders, and then there's crochet alongs, knit alongs, stitch alongs, quilt alongs, sew alongs, all the alongs. So I did have a few things that I needed to work on. The first one is I need to make a dobby for my cousin, which I'm actually going to work on today when I finish this video, if I ever finish this video. So I pulled out what I need to make dobby. So that was a gift that I needed. And then I have a couple alongs that I'm participating in. The first is the Lars and the Real Girl blanket along, which I am hosting starting on March 1st. So I got all my supplies together for that. And another thing, another along, is I am going to do a stitch along with my friend Amy, good boy, of this Easter pillow here. So I pulled out what I needed for that. And last but not least, Auntie Craft Camp still happens. And for Easter, my sister Sadie and my mother and I are going to make wreaths. But I need to practice because it's something I've never done before and make sure it's doable. So I have these water balloons here. Sorry for the plastic noise. And I need to attempt to make some string eggs with these water balloons. So I pulled out the supplies for that so that I can attempt this so we can schedule when we're going to do that, and I will be ready. We'll see. Criteria number 4 was, what do I want to make? And the questions I have for that are, what do I feel like working on? What do I have what I need to work on that in my stash? Because I really am trying not to purchase any, especially yarn, but not to purchase anything if I don't have to. And do I have a use, a need, or a recipient for it? And then sometimes, does it matter? And we'll talk about that when I get into some of these things. So those are the things. What am I feeling like working on? And my 5th criteria is I always have a car project, a project to throw in my purse, and it just needs to be a small compact project that fits in my purse. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a pair of socks. It could also be something like a hat. Socks is usually a good bet because there's no way I'm going to finish a pair of socks in an appointment time. So that's typically what it is. All right. And 6 is my plan. So my plan is as follows. I can't find my bag. Oh, it's right there. The first thing I'm working on is a whip, and that is the Clara dress. And this is something I wanted to work on. And when I got to that question of, do I have a use, a need, or a recipient for it? The answer was no, I do not. And that brought me to, does it matter? No, it does not. I don't care. There's somebody someday who will need or want this, so I'm going to knit it. And that's what I did. So I started it. If I didn't have the supplies already, I probably wouldn't have started it. But I had everything I needed. So the Clara dress is first on my plans. Even though it's a whip, it's still technically a plan because I have everything I need all together. My 2nd and 3rd go with these 2 yarns that I just showed you. Now, this is also, do I have a recipient or a use for it? No, not necessarily. But does it matter? No. You have seen me knit both of these things before, and these could potentially go to Sophie if the sizing is correct. But the first thing is this dress, Eleni's, I think that's how you say it, dress. I've knit this for Sadie several times. I actually just knit it for Sophie also. But I have enough yarn to knit that dress in this yarn, which one was this? The Deep. So I'm going to do that. If it fits Sophie at the end, great. If not, someone I know someday will have a child that it will fit, or I can sell it, or I can donate it. It's not going to waste away. This one probably would fit Sophie, and I've made this one several times too, and that's the, I don't know how you say this. dress. It's Pay for a Pattern on Ravelry. And I'm going to use this, the Dude one, the Dude colorway. And I figured out that with the amount of yarn I have, I can make the 4-year size. And this dress does run big, as does the other one, so she should be able to wear it for a while. Now, I know this yarn is called the Dude, but this has purple in it, purples and blues, so I think this will be good for Sophie. Next on my list is something I've been talking about for a long time, and that is the Bronwyn Sweater. And I have this in a bag, and this is the yarn I'm going to use for that. So that's all ready to go. Right now it's all just spread out all over the table, but it is in a bag. I also wanted to work on some stuffies. I used to make stuffies all the time. I haven't been doing it very much recently. So I pulled out a few yarns that I would like to make stuffies with. The first pattern I pulled is the Bebe Bunny pattern, and I have just knit this, but it's really cute, and I'd like to make one. I've made one. I'd like to make 2 for my sister's kids, potentially 2 for Kristen's brother's kids. There's a friend of mine who has a new baby in her life. I'd like to make one for her. I may not, who knows, but I pulled out that just in case, and the yarn. I made this once a very long time ago for Kristen's cousin, and I've wanted to make one for myself ever since, and that is the Grumposaurus. So I pulled out that just in case I have time to do that. And then I haven't knit a Rebecca Danger pattern in a lifetime, so I pulled out, make sure there's no pattern info. I pulled out Jerry the Musical Monkey. And I also pulled out the Big Book of Knitted Monsters, and I thought that would be a good place for me to start if and when I get to the point where I want to knit a monster. I think you are seeing that the theme of my project planning is options, because even if I plan, I may not be inspired to work on what I planned on. So, going along with my list, I have the camper cross stitch kit out that I told you about. I'll try and put a picture of it here where I am. I'm really close to having that finished, so that's my goal project. You know, one of my goals was to finish one of my big projects. That's one of my big projects, and if I finish that, I would be on cloud 9. So that's on my list. I have my Easter stitch along, which I just showed you. That starts on March 1st. And then I also have in my plans my Frosted Pumpkin Little Red Riding Hood Parade. I have to work on my February clue. The next clue comes out, I think, March 10th, and I'd like to stay on top of that, if at all possible. And finally, in terms of cross stitch, I pulled out a couple Mill Hill kits because they're small and easy to work on. So I pulled out those, and I pulled out this Icky Sticky bead box for small beads to use. I used to use a tacky bob, but my tacky bob got pretty gross, and I don't think you can get them anymore, so I decided to give this a try. What else is on my list? I have my Scrappy Happy out. I have the Dobby out. I have the balloons out for the eggs. And for socks, to start, I pulled out this yarn here, which is, what is this? This is Turtle Pearl yarn. This is the red Star Trek yarn. So I'm not a Trekkie, I just like the yarn. How many more times can I say them? So that is how my brain works in terms of planning. This may or may not work for you. As I said, I will leave a link down below to the Google Doc if you would like to download this and try and use this to help with your planning. I'm a list maker also, so every day I make a list, and whatever I feel like working on for the day, it goes on my to-do list, because self-care is important, and if I don't craft, I'm not taking care of myself. I also do set aside a certain part of my day, specifically every day, for me time that I craft. And typically that is from 9 to 11 because typically everybody in the house goes to bed between 9 and 10, and I have some quiet time. I watch really trashy TV and I work on crafts. That's my me time. That's just who I am. If this worked for you, I'd love to hear about it. And if you do something differently, I would also love to hear about it, because my process is always changing. And yeah, so that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned at the end, because I think I'm going to throw in some bloopers, because Dexter was extra today. He was extra. All right, I'll talk to you soon. All right. Hello, friends. Here comes Dexter. So like I said in the last year, I don't crochet fast. I don't cross stitch fast. Dexter. And a couple patterns. The first is the baby punny. So there were two things in my stash that I was really drawn to this time. As I mentioned in my last TGIF, the number one question I get asked is, how do I get as much done as I do? This dog is going to be the death of me.